Well, as everyone knows, we are getting ever closer to the 2026 midterm elections. And with that, we really got to talk about how the Republican Party, despite everything going on, they have a serious chance to defy all expectations and maybe, just maybe, win the midterms. Now, I'll be clear about this. I am not saying that the Republican Party is for sure going to win. In fact, I think right now, yeah, Democrats, they retake the House. They probably have a net gain in the Senate. But guys, despite everything, the fact that we're even talking about this as still a somewhat serious possibility is crazy. And it's simply because, despite everything going on, the Republican Party has one key advantage they have basically never had before: money. We've talked a lot about this over the last couple of months, how the Republicans are fundraising a lot of money. Democrats, meanwhile, yeah, they have some candidates like James Telrico and John Ossoff in Georgia. They can raise a lot of money individually. Outside of that, though, they've been struggling the entire year to fundraise anything near the amount the GOP has raised. And we're not even talking about Elon Musk or Trump's super PAC. We're just talking about the core Republican groups. And now, after months of speculation, the Republican Party, they're finally unloading the war chest onto the midterms. Just look at this right here from Axios. The House Republicans launch a $22 million campaign in 41 districts. Of course, they're going to be spending way more than just $22 million. This is just the first major ad spend by House Republicans this year. And that's extremely noteworthy because the Republican Party in the last couple of years, their strategy has been wait until after Labor Day and then spend all your money. That's always been the strategy because most of the time, the Democrats, they were the ones that outraised Republicans by a ton of money. And the Republican Party, they were forced to sit back and wait until after Labor Day and then spend money because they simply did not have the amount of money needed to run a year-long campaign. And I've been saying for months now, the Republican Party, they should have started this ad blitz months ago. I said back in May, June, July. But either way, they're finally spending money before Labor Day. And it's not just $5 and that's it. It's $22 million in 41 seats. That's a lot of money, considering that the Republicans, they still have hundreds of millions of dollars just sitting there. They have hundreds of millions of dollars on hand. And they're going to spend the rest of that after Labor Day. So I think it's a great thing the Republicans are finally doing this. But guess what? They're not the only major group spending money, not just the House GOP. We now have Trump's main super PAC, MAGA Inc., finally about to unleash their record war chest. You think the Republican Party as a whole has a lot of money? Yeah, Trump has even more. For those that don't know, Trump's super PAC, MAGA Inc., has like $800 million. Yeah, I might be off by like 100 million in either direction. It's something egregious like that. It's like 700 to 800 million. It's a lot of money. And President Trump is finally giving the Republican Party access to this money. Again, we're not talking about just $5 million or some minor group. This group is worth hundreds of millions on top of the RNC having a couple hundred million, on top of the House Republicans, Senate Republicans. They have hundreds of millions of dollars also. Now you include MAGA Inc. This right here is why Republicans have this advantage. You take out MAGA Inc., they still have an advantage over Dems. You include it, it's quite possibly the biggest advantage ever for either party. Trump's political team is still debating what the final dollar figure will be, though one person familiar with the discussions floated 30 million in the first tranche. And I would figure, yeah, 30 million as the initial investment. Of course, this is not every single dollar they're investing this year. This is the first investment. Just like the House GOP, they're spending roughly 22 million. Trump's first investment will be $30 million. Just casually, yeah, 30 million. Another official caution that the final amounts have not yet been decided, so it can go up, It might go down a tiny bit, but it sounds like it's not going to be $5 to like Ken Paxton. No, it's going to be tens of millions of dollars heading towards, I would assume, places like Texas, North Carolina, Michigan, and a few other places. The long awaited cash infusion is happening in the coming weeks, two people said. Describe it as a first salvo in a stretch run effort as November looms just 3 months away. There is a path where we keep the House and the Senate. One source told CNN, I'm not in a place today where I'm prepared to say we're cautiously optimistic about that. Yeah, and I agree with that. I think right now, the Democrat Party, they are favored to win the House and probably get a net gain in the Senate of like one, maybe two seats. The problem for Democrats is this should be their, this is when they should be peaking in the polling and fundraising and everything. And so far, it's not happening. If this is their current peak, if this is as good as it's going to get for them, they're in a lot of trouble because in August, historically at least, the Democrat Party, they tend to have this magical surge in all the polling. And yeah, they've gained a little bit in the polling, but even then, it's like a D+5 environment, D+6, which, yeah, it would be enough to win back the House, but it's not really enough for this blue tsunami. And we've been talking about this for a while. This is before Republicans unleash this money. Money isn't everything in politics, but the Republican Party, for the first time, possibly ever, at least in modern history, they have an actual advantage, not of a couple million, hundreds of millions of dollars more than Democrats do. Trump is also belatedly preparing to ratchet up his own campaigning schedule, with plans to travel at least once a week to hold a spat of rallies in battleground districts. One advisor said, good. I don't know why they didn't do this months ago. I get it. He's the president. You can't expect him to do 30 rallies in a week like he did in 2020 or 2024. You can't expect that. But still, I wish he would have started campaigning more often sooner for the simple fact that right now, the one advantage Democrats do got over Republicans, which I still think is kind of overblown, is enthusiasm. Their voters are enthusiastic. They're ready to vote. The problem for Democrats, we keep talking about this should be when they are peaking right now in August. So yeah, they have a big enthusiasm advantage. That's before Trump really campaigns. That's before Republicans start to spend their money. And now it sounds like they're finally going to do both. Trump is going to start campaigning more, and they're going to start spending a lot of money. I wish they would have done this months ago because this would make everyone's job a lot easier. Can you imagine for a second if they started in July instead of now? They would have had an extra month to campaign and pick up some momentum because so far, Democrats, they have momentum and enthusiasm for the simple fact that when you think about it, Republicans have not really been contesting anything in terms of ad spending, get out the vote operations, nothing noteworthy before now. And it seems like that's starting to change even just a little bit. He loves to travel, but he hates to travel, said one of his advisors, noting that domestic issues in the war in Iran upended early plans to get him on the road more frequently. And I think that's just stupid. If the war in Iran really caused that, I get that to a certain extent. Yeah, Iran has been saying they're going to try to blow up Trump for years now. I get that, but still, you should have started this earlier. If you can't barnstorm the country, fine. That's not really the issue. At least spend some money. That is just what's confusing about this. Okay, the stuff in Iran's bad. Just spend money. Trump doesn't have to leave the White House like daily and campaign in Michigan or whatever. All he has to do is just start spending money early and then start campaigning. That's all we've been asking for at this point, like 5 months now. I get it, fine. You don't want to spend $100 million in March. Fine, whatever. Just spend a little bit. Just do a couple rallies in Texas for the primary. Get voters ready, not just for the primaries that occurred, but just in general. A couple rallies in Texas, a couple in like Arizona, Georgia, Florida. He did one or two in each of the states, but maybe a couple more just to get the base ready for the November election. Still, there's widespread angst within the party that Trump has waited too long to get more directly involved. Lawmakers and operatives have privately agonized for months over the president's reluctance to commit his vast sums to helping elect candidates across the country. The GOP's fighting to hold dozens of House seats and a handful of critical Senate seats amid voter backlash over rising prices and the deeply unpopular war in Iran, with no end in sight on either problem. And that's why I said he should have gotten more involved early. Because a lot of voters right now, they're just not enthusiastic. They're not paying attention. They're tuned out completely. Well, a big reason why is Trump has kind of been asleep at the wheel on the campaign front. He's not been really doing everything he could to get these people out to vote. A lot of people, they're only going to vote if Trump is actually involved. If he's campaigning, if he's spending money, they're going to get more involved. And that's why he should have done this months ago. And these private lawmakers and operatives, they're right. You had all this time, even just a couple more rallies a month. You know how big of a difference that makes for getting people out to vote, just not just in primaries, but for the general? Because then it gets voters months ahead of schedule, ready and prepared for the September and October campaign, and then to finally vote in November. Now, for a lot of people, you're currently at 0% for a lot of people. A lot of people, they have not been paying attention, maybe a tiny bit here and there. They don't know there's even a midterm coming up. You got to find a way to get these people out to vote. And waiting until now, that is my biggest issue. I've been saying this for a while. You have to do campaign earlier. You don't want to spend everything right away, but just a bit more effort back in May or April. That could have helped the Republican Party a lot more. But at the end of the day, the average voter does have a short attention span. That is 100% true. That is the one advantage the GOP has. The average voter, they move on from a lot of things. For example, if gas prices go down to like $3 by late October, nobody's going to give a shit about gas prices. Will that happen? To be determined, I guess. But at the end of the day, a lot of people, they're just not tuned in. And the ones that are, the vast majority of them, they care about something for a couple of weeks and they move on. So we're going to see what happens in the next couple of weeks. We're going to see how the Republican Party plays this, how Trump really ramps up his schedule, because he has to. If he wants to win the midterms and not just keep the Senate, but somehow expand the majority in both chambers, try to win the governorship in Wisconsin and in Arizona, maybe in Michigan, he has to campaign much more than he is right now. And from everything I've seen right here, that's what's going to happen. And that is a big win for the GOP. That's been their biggest problem. So far, for a lot of people, a lot of average Trump voters, they don't care. They're just not engaged right now. You have to get them engaged now. If you wait until October or early November, they're not going to vote. This is the time to really ramp things up, and that's what's likely going to happen. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, and of course, join the channel today. Godspeed to all of you.